Every morning, before the bells of the village rang through the fog, a young orphan girl named Elira painted the future without even knowing it. She lived alone at the edge of a forgotten village where the sun rarely touched the ground. Thick silver fog rolled endlessly between the crooked houses and silent forests, hiding the world beyond the hills like a secret no one dared to uncover. The villagers believed the fog carried old magic. Some whispered that it protected the village. Others feared it was waiting for something terrible to awaken within it. But Elira never feared the fog, she feared people. At 14 years old, Elira had spent most of her life unseen. She lived quietly inside a tiny abandoned cottage filled with dusty paint jars, cracked canvases, and the gentle smell of old wood and rainwater. She spoke softly, walked softly, even dreamed softly. The only thing in her life that felt alive was painting. Every evening, she sat beside her window with a brush in her hand, painting the villagers she watched through the drifting fog outside. She painted smiling bakers, fishermen returning home, children chasing lantern bugs through the mist. And somehow, her paintings always felt strangely real. Too real. One cold autumn evening, Elira painted the village baker carrying a basket of fresh bread beside the river bridge. But in the corner of the painting, something unusual appeared. A broken wooden plank. Dark rushing water. The baker falling. Elira stared at the image nervously. She did not remember painting those details. The next morning, the old bridge collapsed beneath the baker exactly as the painting had shown. Only this time, the villagers managed to save him before the river swept him away. By sunset, whispers spread through the village. Elira painted it. She knew it would happen. She saw the future. Fear moved faster than fog. Soon, villagers avoided her tiny cottage completely. Parents pulled children away whenever she walked past. Market doors closed quietly before she arrived. But Elira herself did not understand what was happening. Until the paintbrush appeared. One stormy night, while rain tapped softly against her windows, Elira discovered an old wooden box hidden beneath loose floorboards inside her cottage. Inside rested a beautiful silver paintbrush unlike anything she had ever seen. Its handle shimmered faintly blue beneath candlelight. Tiny glowing symbols curled around the wood like vines. And when Elira touched it, warm light rushed through the room. The candles flickered wildly. The windows trembled. And for one brief moment, the fog outside seemed to move like living waves. Elira pulled her hand back in fear. But the brush glowed softly in her palm, almost as if it recognized her. That night, she painted again. Only this time, the portrait changed while she worked. A fisherman she painted suddenly appeared older on the canvas. His smile faded, storm clouds formed behind him. A torn fishing net drifted beside dark waves. 3 days later, the fisherman's boat was destroyed during a violent storm exactly as the painting had shown. The village panicked. Some believed Elira was cursed. Others accused her of bringing the disasters herself. Soon, strange symbols appeared painted across her cottage door. Stay away. Fog witch. Even the kindest villagers stopped speaking to her. And for the first time in her life, Elira began hiding her paintings beneath the floorboards. But the visions would not stop. Every portrait revealed fragments of tomorrow. Sometimes joyful moments. Sometimes sadness. Sometimes danger. And every time Elira painted, the silver brush grew warmer in her hand. As if the magic inside it was waking slowly. Then one evening, Elira painted something that terrified her more than anything before. She painted the entire village. Only, the fog was different. Dark. Thick. Alive. Shadow-like shapes stretched between the houses. Lanterns flickered out one by one. And above the village sky, the moon itself vanished behind swirling darkness. At the center of the painting stood a massive shadow with glowing silver eyes. Watching. Waiting. Elira dropped the brush onto the floor. Her hands trembled violently. The painting felt colder than ice. And in the bottom corner of the canvas, words slowly appeared on their own. When the fog loses its light, the kingdom will forget tomorrow. That night, the wind outside screamed through the village louder than ever before. The fog thickened until even nearby houses disappeared completely. And somewhere far beyond the forest, something ancient awakened. The next morning, strange things began happening across the kingdom. Birds vanished from the skies. The river stopped reflecting sunlight. Children woke unable to remember their dreams. Even laughter seemed quieter somehow. As though the world itself was slowly losing hope. Elira tried warning the villagers but fear had already poisoned their hearts. You caused this, you brought the darkness here. Leave this village before worse comes. Tears filled Elira's eyes as the villagers turned away from her. For one painful moment, she considered throwing the magical paintbrush into the river forever. No more visions. No more fear. No more loneliness. But that night, something unexpected happened. A small knock echoed at her cottage door. When Elira opened it, she found a little boy standing alone in the fog. He looked no older than 7. He carried a broken wooden lantern in his hands. Unlike the others, he was not afraid of her. My mother says you paint scary things, he whispered nervously. But could you still paint me? Elira hesitated, then slowly nodded. The little boy sat quietly beside the candlelight while Elira lifted the silver brush once more. This time, the portrait revealed something entirely different. Not disaster. Not fear. The boy stood older beneath bright sunlight, smiling proudly beside a glowing lighthouse overlooking the sea. Hope filled his eyes. Courage. Purpose. The little boy stared at the painting in amazement. That's really me. Elira smiled softly. Yes, she whispered, someday. For the first time in many years, someone looked at her without fear. And something inside the magical brush changed. The silver glow became warmer, gentler, as if the brush itself approved. That was when Elira finally understood. The brush did not reveal darkness because darkness ruled the future. It revealed what people feared most. And what goodness still survived inside them. But before Elira could fully understand the truth, disaster struck. That same night, the black fog reached the village. The darkness moved unnaturally fast through the streets, swallowing lantern light wherever it passed. People ran screaming through the mist. Doors slammed shut. Children cried. And above the rooftops, the enormous silver-eyed shadow appeared exactly as Elira had painted. The villagers froze in terror. But Elira remembered something important. Every portrait she painted revealed not only danger, but possibility. So while the village hid in fear, Elira carried her paints into the center of the storm. The icy fog wrapped around her like living snow. Her hands trembled as she placed a blank canvas onto the frozen ground. The silver-eyed shadow towered above her, waiting, watching. And for the first time, Elira understood what the darkness truly was. Not a monster, but fear itself. A living shadow created from every hopeless heart in the kingdom. The more people feared tomorrow, the stronger it became. Elira closed her eyes tightly. Then she began to paint. Not destruction. Not despair. Hope. She painted the villagers helping one another through the storm. She painted broken homes glowing warmly again. She painted children laughing beneath clear skies. She painted courage. Kindness. Forgiveness. And as the silver brush moved across the canvas, something miraculous happened. The paintings began glowing. Warm golden light spilled into the fog. The darkness trembled violently. Around the village, frightened people slowly stepped outside their homes. They saw themselves inside Elira's glowing paintings. Not as fearful strangers, but as better versions of themselves. A baker helping hungry families. Fishermen rescuing neighbors from floodwaters. Children sharing lanterns through the storm. The villagers stared in silence. And one by one, they began doing exactly what the painting showed. They helped each other, protected one another, comforted the frightened. And with every act of kindness, the black fog weakened. The giant silver-eyed shadow roared across the sky as golden light spread through the village streets. Elira continued painting through tears and exhaustion while the magical brush glowed brighter than the moon above her. Then suddenly the final truth revealed itself inside the canvas. Elira saw a woman standing beside her as a baby years ago, a woman holding the silver paintbrush, smiling gently. Her mother. The vision showed that the brush had belonged to generations of dream painters before her. Not people who predicted the future, but people brave enough to help others believe in a brighter one. The brush only revealed darkness to those who had forgotten how to see goodness. And it only awakened fully for someone willing to paint hope even when surrounded by fear. Elira's tears fell softly onto the glowing canvas. At last, she understood who she truly was. Not cursed. Chosen. With one final stroke of the brush, golden light exploded across the kingdom. The black fog shattered into thousands of glowing particles that rose into the sky like stars returning home. For the first time in generations, sunlight pierced through the village fog completely. Warm golden light touched every rooftop, every street, every face. The villagers stared at Elira in tense silence. Then slowly, the little boy stepped forward holding his repaired lantern. "Thank you," he whispered. Others followed behind him. The baker, the fishermen, the families who once feared her most. And for the first time in her life, Elira no longer stood alone. Seasons passed. The village slowly transformed into a brighter place filled with music, gardens, and glowing lanterns that lit the streets even during heavy fog. And every evening, beside the open cottage window, Elira continued to paint. Not because she feared tomorrow anymore, but because she finally understood something far more powerful. The future was never painted by magic alone, it was painted by the courage people chose to carry into it together. And high above the village, beyond the golden clouds, the last pieces of black fog faded quietly into the light.